Welcome to The Girl Herd,
where we talk Texas football.
and a bunch of takes you've probably already heard.
But not from us.
Welcome back, everybody. It's the Girl Herd. We just came back from Austin and our sad L from the Georgia game. Let's recap it, ladies.
I mean, I asked you guys when we left our seats, I was like, how sad are we? Because personally, I don't know if I have very good self-coping skills. Honestly, I probably do. That's a whole different pod. But during the end of the game, like it was maybe like the whole fourth quarter, I was happy. Like we were still down, but I felt hopeful the entire game. We had opportunities. We didn't capitalize on them. But you all, like, we left that game. Our team has had so much chatter. Sunday morning, I spent hours texting my college girlfriends back and forth about our team. The last time we did that was 2009, whenever we were in college. So personally, I don't have a lot to be down about. Georgia left the game, of course, riding high, but I don't think the highest, because at the end of the day, like, what did that game mean to us versus them? Very different things. And I think I was realizing that, but mostly just like happy to be where we are. Like in this new conference, we were number one before the game ended. We have every opportunity still in front of us. So yeah, my question is, how sad are we?
I'm bummed. I think, you can look at it. We have a lot of football left. I'm proud. I'm still happy to be a Longhorn, of course, and proud of our second half for sure and staying in the game. And if there's a game to lose, this is it. Being realistic, we could play 16, 17 games. That was our game 7. So it is what it is, but am I bummed that we lost? And more about the way we lost, seeing us and how we came out in the first half is where my feelings are uneasy. However, that doesn't mean that I don't think our future is bright and I'm optimistic, but I would be lying if I was like, I'm not a little bummed that we didn't get that win, of course.
I could agree with that sentiment. I think that if we're going to lose, I would want to lose with us playing at our peak performance and knowing that we put everything on the field, to which we very much did not. There was a lot of things like different cylinders that were not clicking Saturday night in DKR. That was unfortunate. But I do think, again, we came out in the second half and did change some schemes or what we were doing that did put us back in the game. But at the end of the day, for whatever reason, I don't know, there's rumblings about the Ted Cruz curse going on, if it was him, whatever, but it just, nothing was going in our favor. We also weren't helping ourselves with silly penalties and some kind of just uncharacteristic things, I feel like, than what we've seen of the Longhorns in previous games. But to your point, Devin, if we're going to lose, Georgia did have a lot more, I think, to prove than what we did in that game. They could not lose another game. So they came in kind of with that mentality and that mindset, and honestly, a great game plan for us.
Yeah, I do think they played very well. There's been lots of talks about it being probably the best game they've had year to date or season to date, however you want to look at it. So, I thought Georgia looked really good. And it kind of we talk a lot about this. And of course, we kind of started talking about stuff for Sugar Bowl. I feel like it is a very similar feeling. That Washington team was on their A game. This Georgia team was on their A game. And we weren't on our A game, where the next game we're probably going to watch them and be like, no, wait a minute, we could have beat that Georgia team, or however we may feel, but they did well.
I don't agree. I don't think Georgia played that good. I think that we turned the ball over in our territory and they got 17 points off of that super quick. Their quarterback stats weren't even as good as Quinn's. We actually disrupted him I don't know if we disrupted him. I won't even say that because I know we got sacked way more, but I will say he didn't do anything spectacular. He didn't even throw 200 yards. I think what you were saying, Michelle, about the frustration of the game. If anything, it's that. Like, we didn't need to lose, but like, also let's remember Georgia has played 51 games and lost 3. So it's not like we're out here losing to nobody. It's really okay. And truly, I'd rather lose my I'd rather lose in the regular season. Like, we have so much going for ourselves still. So that's why, again, I was like, is what it is, got punched in the mouth, go figure it out. And to me, I feel like we left with still the top defense in all of college football, and they played completely lights out. So I don't know. Like, I guess if anything, I was frustrated because it's like, I don't think we saw Georgia's best at all. I think we should have won that game based off of like how their offense came out.
I agree with that. Their defense was lights out.
That
Their
part, yeah, that's
defensive
what I'm like.
line.
Their defense was very good. Offense, I can agree with that. Offense, yes, but yeah.
Yeah, Carson Beck is not the most impressive to me. I think in the future, like, he is their weak spot for sure. I do. But yes, their defensive line, there was talks about like their defense isn't as good as they have been in the past. And Saturday night, they were rocking. Right? They were the defense that I feel like Georgia is known for. So yeah, I mean, I do hope we've said this before, like earlier today and this weekend. Like, I do hope we get a rematch with Georgia and we come out freaking ready, right? Because, and it was like the stadium was jumping on Saturday, right? Like, we've talked about this on other pods. They came with the music, they came with the light shows, the energy was electric in DKR. And then, it just kind of like an air that you poke and like the air is just slowly coming out.
Shout out to everyone for bringing it back though. Like, once our team started doing things, the students were riding high. The energy, again, I think was a reflection of how I was feeling. People were very positive inside the stadium, even though we were very much heading towards like Destination L, if you will. Like, they were still so jovial, and that's how I felt inside. I was like, this is freaking awesome. Like, I just can't wait for another game like this. But also, one of the reasons why I'm not so upset about the loss is because I just don't think that we would have been able to maintain number one. Like, the pressure would have built too high. And I was texting with one of my friends who said that essentially that's the culture Sark's built, this winning culture, like all this stuff. So she felt very, confused about like how that wasn't matching up with us going and getting the win. But I was like, one thing that culture doesn't teach is the experience of having a target on your back. We came into T-Town last year and won the game. We started out at the big house this year and won the game. And people are like, well, what's the difference? Why couldn't we come at our own home stadium and beat Georgia? The difference is we were being a dog, and that's what we're used to. We're used to playing underdog and going and ruining someone's season. We are not used to being the darling, haven't been that in many years. And so now they got a little taste of it. We're going to go back to the locker room and regroup and come back and achieve it again. And I think the second time around, they'll be ready.
Hope that left the worst feeling and the worst taste in their mouth, and now they're freaking ready to finish out the season. Like, that isn't what's happened to us again, because now we know what it feels like. But I mean, like we said, perfect time for them to have that feeling and to wake up.
Yeah, I mean, I do. I agree with that. Like, I think it's, again, like, I want to win out. Like, we've talked about this, we've said what we were going to do, but is that realistic? And is it that this game is the right one? And like, in this time in the season, for sure. And is there, I mean, yes, is there pros to losing? Of course. So, our team and like feeling that and how they're going to feel now and the drive that they're going to have, like, I know it. Like, and I think, the difference of this season and the culture that we have and the team that we have is, like, even in the first quarter when it was iffy, or the first half even, I didn't go to halftime being like, that's it, we're done, let's leave this game. Like, we still have that drive, and you saw it coming out in the third quarter. And I know that we'll see that still for this season to come as well. And I mean, I love that part of it, obviously. And like, hey man, I'll stand on our defense all day long as well. Like they held their own, and I know that they're, only going to continue to grow as this season goes on as well.
Some of the plays the defense was making, I mean, they were absolutely insane. Like a couple of those interceptions, I was like, how did your body, like they wanted it. And I loved seeing that. And same thought as you, Michelle. I had not a doubt in my mind at halftime. I got my banana pudding popsicle and was real happy and sat down and was ready for a show. And we got some points after that. So I was happy. Speaking though about the second quarter specifically, and there's been a lot going on today, like with the quarterback situation. Want to know like what y'all think about his decision to take out Quinn and put in Arch for a little bit, and then like implications of thereafter, which are literally going on as we're filming this.
Honestly, it was not that mad about the decision, right? I do think you could tell that Quinn was frazzled. He like wasn't settled in the game. And from what Sark says, right, like in his opinion on it was like he needed a little time to like calm down, right? So put Arch in there to end the half, go back in the locker room, regroup, have those conversations. Let's see what we can do now to kind of change the momentum of our offense for the second half to get back to our basic, like what we know how to do as an offense. And for me, I mean, I don't think it was that big of a deal, honestly, and kind of maybe something that Quinn needed, to be honest. But the reaction of the crowd is also has to make Quinn feel a type of way.
Yeah, we've talked. I mean, I've had this conversation a lot as well. And like, I mean, I love Quinn. He's a senior. You want to see this for him. We've talked about that. Do I think the decision was wrong? No. Like I trust Sark. I can understand why he did it. I mean, the stadium was yelling all sorts of things as well. And I think if anything, I mean, you could look at that defense and you could see that defensive line, what they were doing. And they were collapsing our offensive line and getting to Quinn. And so then you wonder, like, would Arch have a different strategy and being like more applicable to run, or how it would go, and getting Arch the time going against a huge team of Georgia and, trying to get him those reps as well with SEC teams and everything else. There's so many different ways to look at that. But I mean, I wasn't surprised when Quinn came back in the third quarter either, right? It wasn't like I was like, well, now we're running Arch, that's it. Like I'm always a proponent of two quarterbacks and giving him a moment, even just to see like, look, Quinn, look what they're also doing to Arch. Like watch their schemes, watch the way the defense is against the offense for a little bit and see what's happening live, and then go in and recoup at halftime. So I get it. I can see it in different ways. Everyone has, different opinions about it as well.
Yeah. I think Kirby Smart knew what he was doing. Like, I swear it's some psychological warfare 5D chess he was playing. And his game plan, I bet if I could find his notebook over in Athens, Georgia right now, it says make Sark take QB1 out of the game. And he did. And then now we have what's happening, because even if we would have won the game with Arch, today we would be having the same conversation that's going on online, which is not a real conversation, but it's all these questions and it puts that seed of doubt in people's heads. I know it probably doesn't put anything in Sark's head, but who knows what's going on the inside over there. And the reason why I was saying that I don't think we saw Georgia's best, even on defense, there was opportunities where Quinn could have jumped in the pocket a little bit. Like I was watching the replays and clips and it's just like, oh, I wish we had that back. And of course they know he's a pocket quarterback. So they schemed for that. So when Arch came in, he was able to impact a little bit because he's a different style of QB, but absolutely we know Quinn is our QB1. I do need to say something though about you mentioning like he's got to feel some type of way, Angie. That's a conversation we were having Sunday in my text group. And I actually don't know if he does feel some type of way, which could be slightly problematic, actually.
Yeah. I mean, you would hope as the senior in QB1, hearing a roar of the stadium when you get pulled out the game makes you be like, oh no, like this is my spot. I like deserve the respect and I'm going to show you why I'm QB1. Like that's the energy I want to see from him. Like QB1, you thought it was a question. Let me sit you down and answer all of those questions with multiple exclamation points at the end.
Yeah, I think we saw that at Michigan. Like he was so hyped, he was yelling, "I'm him." He was doing amazing. But I do want to see more of that energy as well because he is so mature. He's so well mannered. We talked about this before, and I think he's very focused. However, you do need to have a little bit of that chip on your shoulder. And yeah, ain't no way in my senior year there's going to be all this chatter and smoke around somebody else. I'm having my senior campaign. So I hope that internally he's thinking about those things and using it as we go into Vandy this week.
I think he is. Like, I mean, I think he's like calm mannered, and so maybe like we're not seeing it. I mean, you have to feel like he feels the type of way about getting pulled in that game. I mean, there's whether he's like really paying attention to all the talks of like Heisman and everything else. Like, let's be honest, like Beck and him are huge talks, right? So like getting pulled from that game, going head to head with them, I'm sure you have to have some type of feelings. But I mean, I agree that he like keeps them at bay as well. And I don't know. I would love to be in that locker room at halftime and or even after and see what he had to say. Like, I bet he was like, what the heck? Let me prove myself. Like, let me get back out there. What are you doing? But then also is kind of like a businessman. Like, okay, I'll see what I'm going to learn at this point in time. I don't know.
And that might have been a tactic too of Sark. Like, if I pull him, I will ignite something in him to
Yeah.
come out, you know?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. That's the first thing I thought when it happened. I was like, oh, he's trying to light a fire under his tail. But let's just be real. When you are a quarterback of a team, you need a certain energy, you need a certain attitude. And there's a very stark difference between the confidence of Arch and who Quinn Ewers is as a person. It's just who he is as a person. And so it was a conversation I was having on Sunday, and it's a very real one. Again, that doesn't mean that we need to switch our quarterback. It's just speaking to this idea of how much of a way does he actually feel? I really don't know.
And I do think it would be interesting for us because we do have two elite quarterbacks that have very different play styles to use them both as weapons in games like that. In those big games where they come in and their goal is to take out QB1, not even take out, but like to make sure QB1 is locked down in what his game is, we're taking it completely away. Cool. That's what you thought we were going to do. Like, how about maybe we want to run the ball a little bit with our QB. So, like, bring Arch in or have that kind of transition. I know people don't like to have two QBs, but I think it could be interesting for us because they both are so strong in different areas, right? And we've seen them now both do amazing things.
See, the conversation we weren't having a week ago. This is what I'm telling you. Kirby Smart is out here playing some 5D chess, but we're gonna be ready for him whenever we see him again. So it doesn't matter. Quinn will be fine. I think I love that we're playing Vandy. Like they have confidence right now. They got the big win with Bama. They took their goalposts and marched it down Broadway. Like I love that we get to play them next. They were chanting, "We want Texas." So I know they're going to be coming out guns blazing, but so are we. We have a lot to prove because a bunch of those welcome to SEC chats, which by a chance, I mean, which by the way, I think like is so silly. I'm like, welcome to the SEC, cool. Like, yeah, we're here now. By the way, like the game was by no means a blowout. Like, I just don't know like what that was supposed to mean to Texas people on Saturday. I guess just like something funny for their fans to tell us. I don't know.
Their fans were definitely rowdy.
Yeah, Georgia. Yeah. Yeah, but they also at the end of the game, like same back to what Devin was saying, like they're like, we're gonna see y'all again. Like this isn't over for y'all. We're gonna see you again. Like this loss is gonna not mean as much. Like it did. It did mean the win meant more for Georgia than it did for us. However, this game has been talked about for so long and how it was gonna be at home in Austin, like all the things. But I agree. Like, I'm excited to move along and go to Vandy next. And like, I do hope that I see Georgia again. And I mean, I think even this, like, while I think they did well and had a good game, especially defensively, like, do I think our best team can beat them? Yes. Like, I still believe that. And which makes me want them even more. It's probably why Bama wanted us last year again, but like, hey, I wanted them again as well, like just to prove it. Like, I do think we can beat them. And then, of course, like, this is what Bama did. They played Georgia and then went to Vandy. I mean, of course, they went from a win. But I'm excited. Like, we know that Vanderbilt isn't going to come out just chilling. Like, they're ready for us even. And now we should have that fire. I want to see it. Let's win in Vanderbilt and let's chant, "You wanted Texas," or whatever we want to say back.
That's your rebuttal we got to come up with a rebuttal.
Yeah, you can do better, Angie. I know you can come up with a better one.
I have to think on it so I can show up in Nashville ready with my comebacks.
I did think it was
Great.
funny.
I mean,
Just because we're on the topic of Vandy, I thought it was funny because like our co-op had a little sign, but their little caption was "Battle of the Bachelorette Cities" because Nashville's I think it is the top actually, and Vegas comes in I think second to them, but then Austin, Texas is a big Bachelorette city too, so it was very funny to see that.
hilarious. That's a great sign because very true. Do we want to talk about the call at all? The pass interference? What are y'all's thoughts?
I mean, being at the game, it was crazy. It was crazy when it happened. The series was crazy because our defense forced a 2nd and 16 on them. And then it was like, oh my gosh, we're fired up. It's 3rd down. And then you see, was it Jade, I think, who got the interception on that 3rd down play. And also, I want to say, had returned it for some yards too. So it was exciting, and it was a game-making play for Texas, which then became a game-breaking play when the refs announced that there was a defensive pass interference. And so that was crazy. And all of that happened. And it was like confusing because it's loud in the stadium. And we thought we had something good. And Frank was like, there's flags, it's defensive pass interference. And then when the video board replayed it, things like completely changed within the stadium. It erupted into the largest boos ever. And then people started throwing the water bottles onto the field, which was shocking to like see in person. It was funny hearing the folks who watched it on TV who like kind of didn't know the sequence of events and how it happened. Like my sister was like, I was watching on TV, like what happened with the water bottles and what, like, was it when the call happened, or like, tell me about it. And so, I mean, whether you're for or against what happened, yeah, like what happened seemed to impact the refs actually deciding to make and correct their call to what was the correct call, which was an interception. So, I mean, that's my 2 cents.
Told Michelle, I think it was on our drive home or maybe right there. It's like, I don't think I've ever heard DKR be as loud as they were with the booze. It honestly was unreal, but I kind of loved it, right? Do I think we should throw the water bottles, here nor there? There's other college teams that we know are known for throwing things on the field. But the booze and kind of how upset our fans were at the bad call, I am completely here for, because you got it. That could and did change the whole game with a bad call like that, or incorrect, whatever it is, and whoever went on whichever team, right? Like, it did just so happen it was against us, but I mean, at the end of the day, I do feel like they had to change it to get it right, because the backlash, if they hadn't, would have also been just as bad.
Oh my gosh. In my head, I was like, we ain't starting this game back up till they correct the call. Like, I feel like that was the energy of the student section. And I was here for that because it was horrible. And it literally would have been insurmountable for us to come back from that. They would have been in their red zone, in our red zone, and they would have scored. Like, literally, it was just horrible. So the students were like, nah, this game is stopped. And also, we will stop this game forever unless you switch it back. And so that part was comical to me. And also, I find it comical that the SEC is threatening all these things like alcohol sales. And to me, it's like one of those, like, I'm about to like push you around with my muscle and let you know, like, you are part of the SEC. You don't run the SEC. But point is, we made the SEC refs correct their call. So I don't know. Seems like we won.
I think this is like when you talk about the game, it's hey, sorry about your loss. And also what happened with that call and the bottles and da 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 da. And you're like, I mean, like, look, I hate that the focus is on the fans and like, oh, now y'all need to do this and that and the other. The root cause, the call was wrong. Like, we needed them to review it, and everyone was like, it's just not a challengeable call. That's not an answer. Like, it was wrong. And you don't, like, that is literally, I mean, you said it at the time, Devin. You were like, we just have second and 16 till we get the ball, or now they are having first down because they're calling a pass interference on us. Like, it was, I mean, wild. This is how I felt in the moment. I was like, this isn't actually happening. You're not actually saying this. Like, we've seen some terrible calls. This had to have been the top. So, like, here for them changing it. I hate that the focus is on us and our fans and wanting to give us all types of, I don't know, now we got to do all the paybacks. But like, I also think that's wild. Like, things that we've talked about, Angie, you mentioned it, like, we've seen so many other schools throw certain stuff. Like, schools are storming the fields all the time. Like, Texas never does anything, and they get mad at a call that was awful and a game that we had a lot of feelings about. And now they want to ban the people that find the people that threw it and ban them for the season. Like, that breaks my heart. I hate that for them. I hope they can't find anybody.
Yeah, this is like the passion like that we want from our student section. This is what makes DKR DKR. You go to like Death Valley, right? Like the student section there is unruly if you ever want to talk about alcohol sales. Like, I'm sure we don't even come close to the alcohol being consumed in Louisiana. And I don't even think that that had anything to do with it, right? Like, they're throwing water bottles on the field, not beer cans, not whatever. Like, it was a very emotional part of the game, and that was the response that you got from our student section, right? Like, they were heated and they were upset and they were gonna let you know.
I think a lot of things are so funny about the situation. Like, it's the whole, I think a lot of things were funny about the weekend, the aftermath of people's like takes on the game. As it relates to this situation, few things that I find funny about it. Number one, the SEC was like, you need to go through all links to identify the perpetrators. And that's funny to me because the SEC is like, yeah, we saw y'all's $1 million drone show. So you better use whatever biometrics to find these people because I know y'all probably have that. That's one. Number two, I love how Nick Saban said that it wasn't a tough environment at DKR. But like, first of all, his players actually said the exact opposite. Will Anderson on the Texans, he said whenever he came to Austin that it was a tough environment to play in. So funny again, because the SEC is like, oh, you guys are wine and cheese crowd. But our student section held it down with them water bottles. And the third reason, y'all just mad and jealous because we made the SEC refs correct their call. Sorry, we're just different.
Sure, on all fronts, okay?
But like, Kirby saying that all these calls, like, dude, there was there was some calls on both sides that weren't great, right? Like, even regardless of this call and how it went and what happened, like, oh man, like, I can't with this SEC talk and pity party and whatever you want to call it. Like, come on, y'all.
Nah, like, I think we need to go look at every post-game press conference ever in history by a coach. I've never seen a winning coach talk about the refs. Like, make that make sense. The math isn't mathing. You won, bro. Go home to Athens. Like, why are you out here talking about the refs and like the network not picking you? Get over it.
You've probably not been picked before, bro. Like, get over it, you little whiny baby. That's like what I want to say to him.
And also, what they say is when game day does pick all the same team, it usually goes the opposite way. So you're welcome. Okay.
Yeah, you should be thanking College Game Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who said it to me, but they were like, "Oh my gosh, everyone picked us. Like, I'm really nervous now." And I wasn't nervous. I had all the confidence in our team, even back being down 20-0. But again, unfamiliar territory. Like, it gets harder and harder, in my opinion, to grasp at staying at the top when there's no material. Now we have the material. We lost and we shouldn't have lost. So go correct the mistakes, go watch the film. Let's stay perfect through the rest of SEC. I did think it was funny, if you all looked at the standings, how few SEC games we played compared to other teams so far. We're 2-1 in the conference, and there's people who are like 4-0 in the conference. I was like, oh, like we, I guess, had our schedule is set up differently. Michelle, you mentioned this earlier in the
Yeah.
season, because I was looking at all of the SEC teams, because LSU and A&M gonna need y'all to lose some games. Thank you very much. Thank you in advance. But one of them plays like UTEP their last week, and so it's like not even a conference game. And several of them I know do that, but we'll be playing our conference throughout the rest of our games.
Yeah, like all of our non-conference were at the front, and then now we play all conference, whereas other teams have them mixed in, or some were before, some were at the end, like whatever. So yeah, I mean, it is interesting how that works out and where you stand and what happens, and which is why I'm sure the talk is like, welcome to the SEC. You just played your real first team, blah blah blah. But
I'm
hey,
actually
man,
curious about that setup though with the scheduling. I'm wondering if we opted for that, because it seems like the schools who've been in the SEC are smart to sort of pepper in some of the non-conference, since our conference is the most competitive one. I was like, I wonder if that was our decision to keep our traditional all non-conference at the top, and if we'll switch that up and moving forward, or if we have the ability to do so.
yeah, same. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's one of those where you say, okay, these are the non-conference teams we're gonna play this year, and then like the schedule gets figured out who all we're gonna play. Query that we can find out. I don't know the answer. But regardless of like the welcome and what's happening, like I do think we're ready. I am excited to see this next game, and then we get our bye week. So
Ready to giddy on up to Nashville this weekend.
and you know they're watching film like crazy now.
Oh yeah, their little quarterback, Devin, you talked about this before. The personality and the swagger that comes into being a QB1. He is on the train right now, right? Like, and they are always talking to him. He always has something to say. So I'm very interested. I hope that that really engages our defense, right? Like, keep it up, keep running your mouth so we can pound you into this field on Saturday.
He said something about Bama. I forgot. He said them players were saying something like some disrespectful stuff before the game, but he remembered all of it and repeated it. And I just thought it was hilarious because, again, our team is like seemingly media trained and like saying all the right things. And this man, like, I don't even think is scholarshiped, and just like no polish to him, but so entertaining. So I'm really excited for the matchup.
And we know how all the talk can like get in your head either way, like whether you're saying it or the media is saying it or whatever. And so I love it. It always fuels us.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what they say too right now with how college football is. Like these 2-star, 3-star, whatever athletes are here to prove a freaking point, right? Because now they know their options are endless, right? Just give me the chance to be on a field and let me show you what I can do. So all of our talent, I'm gonna need them to be really shining bright when we come into Vandy on Saturday afternoon. I don't know. I feel like maybe a afternoon game is great for them, but hopefully there won't be any more goalposts coming down in Nashville this weekend.
Absolutely not. And if there ever are, not against us, obviously, they better get fined. That's all I know. Keep
Yeah, there won't be any goalposts coming down. We got this one. Got it.
the whole conversation around goalposts too, eventually.
Honestly,
Different
Yeah.
pod.
like, do these vendors just have goalposts like inventory stocked?
We need to go into business.
Also, I'm curious, like, How do they come down? Are these things not like bolted into the ground? I'm confused.
Enough people in weight, I guess. They topple it. I don't want to be over there when it happens, that's for sure.
Dang. Dangerous.
I've always wondered this, but and like that's not dangerous. I mean, I think you do. I think it is a fine. Like the
Yeah.
first one is a smaller fine, and then the second time you do it, it's whatever. I mean, there is a fine associated to it. But are they finding those fans and making them never come to a game again?
On the water bottle thing though, it did happen to another SEC school and they did get a fine, by the way. But unclear because Georgia also did it and it was like in the college football playoff. They were showing video on Twitter and it was unclear. People were trying to figure out if they got fined for that one.
I feel like the SEC has fines for everything, right? Like as if they need more money from school.
That's what I was saying. I was like, I feel like this conference was like, oh, you will get in line, Texas. Like, I feel like they are trying to like, I don't know, prove a point with us, but ultimately it will be interesting how we develop within this conference because Texas is the largest brand in college football and honestly, larger than the SEC brand, right? Not teams in the SEC. The SEC brand is not as large as Texas, but I think that they have a point to prove and would say otherwise. So I think our little time in this conference is going to get interesting.
But like they do this similar in NFL, right? Like they fine players and teams and stuff like that. So like we're getting ready. I don't know. So interesting, but
Yeah, I could agree. They're like, we're gonna slap you on the hand as much as we can to get you to do what we want and abide by our rules.
everyone was ready for it. They all wanted us get something and like have another reason to say welcome to the SEC. Like,
which is entertaining, right? Like I love all of the banter. It's been really fun. We have not been a topic of conversation like this again in so long. So whether you like what people are saying or not, I just think it's hilarious that we're all talking online again. It's been super fun.
It's also
yeah, I mean,
hilarious when we were leaving the stadium, all the Georgia fans, right, are in the ramps with us and saying their crazy chants. But again, we had to teach more like SEC. If you're gonna throw the horns down, I really need for you to know how to do it, right? Like, get it together, please. Like, if you want to come at us, do it right.
of course they were doing the I love you down. And Angie was like, I love you down is not horns down. Like, at least it's like when people are like, yeah, go dogs. And it's like the way you would write, DOG, like the way you would write a dog. Like, no, come on. You're gonna come at me for something.
I don't know. Like, did you all get the sense that like they were trying to really make us feel away with their like horns down? I was laughing. Like they were reveling in it so hard and as they should. You won the game, but like I don't think they understand like horns down just doesn't hit like that. Like we're just like cool. Like it was so funny. They were just like in our face with it and I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
cool." Like
Yeah. And
You
all
want a
like
cookie?
yeah, like Angie and I, we were walking home and I was like, I'm getting so many messages, so many things. Like everyone's like, it immediately started. Like everyone was just coming at me of like, like, oh, welcome to Texas, like all this stuff. And then like, but then the rest of the weekend, it was like, I'm really sorry about y'all's game. Like I lost a lot of money because y'all lost. Like I really did think you were gonna win, like all these things. And I was like, look, like, and my response was similar, like, look, it was a bummer. I didn't want to lose. However, like, am I like over here in tears and cry? No, like we're gonna be okay. I don't think our season is lost, but man, everyone is ready to be like, we want to come for Texas again. Because the last, I mean, what? How long has it been since they can really, and except for being like, oh, is Texas back? What have they had to say to us?
that's what's funny to me. Online, people were like, y'all were so cocky. Like, you needed to be humble. And I was like, were we? You all hate us this much. Let us have one season. Like, can we have one moment? Apparently not.
Probably not.
No, no.
Well,
Okay,
oh
fine.
well.
Everyone revel in it because we're gonna take the whole season. Bet.
That's what I was about to say. I already have songs loaded down for y'all whenever we do get our revenge. Like, just be ready for the Instas and the TikToks. Like, coming for y'all.
I know. I feel like we have lineups. Like we need to have a shared note where we just have all these songs ready to go. Like, get ready, guys. Get ready.
Arsenal. Yes, we have an arsenal ready.
Yeah. I'm ready to make all those funny TikTok videos for voiceovers.
All the things. But again, all the stuff we already said before on the other pods. Long season, lots to still be excited for. The playoff is going to shake out in such an interesting manner. And Saban said it on game day. You do not need to win the SEC championship to win the national championship, though I think every single Texas Longhorn would agree that we have to win this conference, especially after the game this past weekend, especially after being fined, especially after all the talk. It's like, okay, you know what? Like, I won't be okay unless we win the SEC. Then I will be sad if we lose.
Have things to prove now. Now we're that team.
Yeah, I'm ready for it. I'm ready to be in Atlanta playing whoever wants to play us in SEC. Not gonna be mad if it's Georgia again. And I'm ready to win. Let's do it. Let's take the SEC title the first year in the SEC.
Like last Big 12 one, first SEC one. It just makes sense. So I'm ready for it. I also just kind of want to, we've been saying 1-0 every week, but I just like need the next couple of weeks to go by because of that. Like now that things are starting to even out, we have LSU and the Aggies, yuck, unfortunately sitting at the top. They're undefeated. And people are talking already about how we should go for them this week so that LSU gets their loss right now because people don't think on their schedule there's another one and that we get the win over them for the last one of the season. I'll never catch myself rooting for Aggies. So I'm going to need LSU to come up with a different type of loss. That's just me. But people are already discussing the way in which this might shake out for us. We might need to get some allies that we don't want to be our allies.
True. That is true.
This is kind of the fun part though. Like this is where it all comes into play where you're like, crap, I didn't see this coming, but now I kind of want you to win. Don't catch me saying it, but help us out.
Yeah, how's it going to shake out? Now I feel like we are in March Madness, but it's like extended over a week.
Yeah, that's basically like what the playoff has come to be now. I just can't wait for it. And they were already doing, I think I maybe even sent you all one of the brackets, can't remember, but they're already predicting like the new bracket with our number 5 ranking or whatever, and like how we would be playing these different teams versus like our number 1 ranking. And once again, we talked about this, but it's like, oh, well, these other paths, like they don't seem bad, but end of day, we want that bye so badly because like less strain on the team, right?
Yeah, like I mean, even Sark was saying, like people were asking about Quinn and if he's not 100%, and Sark was like, could I say that any of our players are 100% this far into the season? And like, gosh, we got half of it to go, or more than half, So, geez
Totally.
Louise. So
Staying
yeah,
healthy is going to be a huge part of it. Huge.
yeah, and we've already seen how that can fluctuate for everyone, every team, like their players in and out. So let's do it. We have Vandy next weekend and a bye. That's like my back to 1-0.